This is why God will always force you to surrender every time that you're leveling up. And when I say force, I don't mean like some domination shit. Although if you're into that, then like that's none of my business. What I mean is every time you feel like you're at a breaking point or like you're being forced to surrender in some way, right? If this video is for you, then you know what it's like when you're being forced to surrender. It's like things aren't working. I'm trying to impose my limited version of reality onto the infinite reality, onto the bigger reality that is available. God will always force you to surrender when you're about to be leveled up. And that's because the higher reality, the reality that's actually meant for you, the more expansive, more abundant, more limitless reality, the reality where abundance is not just a one-time thing, it's an ever-flowing thing. The reality where love is not just a one-time event, it's an ever-flowing event. And this requires us, myself included, to be surrendered into the heart, to be surrendered into your broken, open, full spectrum, shadow and light heart, whole self-integration. And this requires surrender. This requires being a co-creator. This requires working with spirit. This requires working with your intuition. This requires working with your inner child. This requires working with your fears and your darkness and your shadows and the parts of you that you've been taught aren't worthy or aren't good enough or are bad or should be hidden or whatever it is. Those parts of you are the parts of you that hold the keys to your most abundant reality. And every time that God asks you to surrender, it's because you're being invited into a more expansive version of who you are, into a more expansive reality where you don't have to just be a certain way in order to receive. You can receive all the time. When you don't have to be a certain way in order to create, you can create all the time. When you don't have to be a certain way in order to be worthy of unconditional love, you are worthy of unconditional love all the time. And these limiting beliefs of how we think we're supposed to be a certain way in order to be wealthy, in order to be successful, in order to be unconditionally loved, in order to be provided for, in order to be taken care of, in order to experience and sustain and create wealth, all the ways that you think you're supposed to be a certain way, that is your perceived limitation. That is the result of your traumas and your unconscious fears and your indoctrinations and the matrix that you're creating inside of your own self. The matrix is not just some external thing, and like capitalism and the colonial patriarchy, although that's one version of the matrix, right? That's one external version of a shadowy matrix, right? But we also have an internal matrix, right? That as within, so without. Your internal experience will directly dictate the way that you experience reality. If you're not living from your heart, how are you going to be available for the abundance and the blessings and the miracles that are already here for you? Are you even appreciating the abundance and the blessings and the miracles that are already here for you? If you're not surrendered into your heart, are you even being a co-creator with spirit, or are you just trying to get something all the time? Generosity is always the way. Generosity is your greatest asset, and this is how you can be generous and you can express and you can live in your truth and you can live in your creative expression and you can be the person surrendered into your heart, joyful, free, emotionally available, abundant, ever flowing, because you're in your infinite self. And you're only in your infinite self when you're surrendering your ego and you're surrendering your fears and your doubts and your limitations and your wounding, and you're loving unconditionally your wounding, and you're loving unconditionally all these parts of you that you feel like you have to get rid of in order to be worthy of love. When you're surrendered into the heart, this is your limitless reality. This is when you're limitless and you can take action from a limitless place, and the action is never ending, because when you're surrendered into the heart, action is ever flowing, inspiration is ever flowing, enthusiasm is ever flowing, because you're at one with God, you're at one with the beloved within, you're at one with this ever flowing expression of truth, of love, of power, not power over domination, but power within, power in relationship, power in relating to all of it. So if you feel like you're being forced to surrender, it's actually because God is leveling you up. And this is going to happen in miraculous ways that you can't even, your limited perception can't even understand. So trust the process, get support, trust the process, break through. You're breaking through even further. You're breaking through your own limitations, your own scarcity, your own fear even further. And the ways that you're being humbled by God are actually the ways that God is blessing you, and actually the ways that God is bringing you into your infinite source of wealth and prosperity and flow and truth and love and abundance and all the good things that you want to experience, because you're surrendering into the heart. You're no longer a victim, a slave to your own unconscious, to your own mind. God is teaching you how to become a master of self, how to work with all parts of who you are and be a co-creator, a powerful co-creator with spirit. Every time you're being forced to surrender is because God is asking you to integrate the next level of wisdom and manifest the next iteration of more of who you are. Love you.